welcome back to the channel. Today's episode is all around the idea of if you are someone who is falling off your habits, falling off of your goals, and not really keeping your word or doing the things that you want to do, how do you change that? Like, what is the difference between a person who is super, super disciplined and does what they say they're going to do and someone who's not? And I just want to start this whole thing off with if you don't know me or this is your first time here, or even if you do know me, I think it's an important reminder that I am now a disciplined person. I've become a very relentless person, but I certainly did not start that way. I was someone super undisciplined. I was very all or nothing. I was kind of the person where I was either like pushing, pushing, pushing to burnout or bust. Like I wasn't doing anything and I couldn't keep my word to myself. I couldn't follow through on anything. I was the person who I would take like one bite off of a diet that I had in like high school and college and I'd binge eat for days. Or I have like a graveyard of workout guides thinking like, oh, the next guide that I get is going to be the guide that makes me finally follow through. Like that was me to all sorts of levels. And I've now just become someone where I'm very confident in myself. I am very relentless. Like if I want something, this is kind of how I define discipline for myself as well. Not maybe discipline, but the relentlessness part. If I want something, I'm going to go get it. Like I'm going to go create it. I'm going to go make it mine because I can follow through because I'm someone who I believe that I can do it. I respect myself enough to show up for it. And I trust myself to do what I say I'm going to do. And I'm able to go create a lot of things that once felt impossible. I'm able to go do, and it's no big deal. So if you are someone who you feel like you keep falling off or not keeping your word or you're not as disciplined as you want to be, cool, perfect. I was that person too. And everything that I have ever done or needed to be able to go from that insecure, unsure, lacking disciplined person to who I am today is actually in my membership Audacious. Everything that you need. Because to be honest, that kind of transformation, it takes really kind of four things. It takes self-respect and really respecting yourself and your goals. It takes trusting yourself, self-trust, and really the ability to keep your word to yourself. It takes self-regulation and this idea of like when hard times come, when you're challenged, can you stay even keeled through it? And then self-belief, like do you actually believe in yourself enough to do what you say you're going to do? And that is the foundation. Those four things are what we help you build inside of Audacious. So how I truly became who I am today and have built all that I've built is it's inside that membership. So know that if you're someone really deeply struggling with this and you want to get help where you talk to me every single day, you get videos from me every single day, you get honestly podcasts like episodes like this from me every single day, like new ones. Audacious is the place for you to go. But okay, let's hop into it. So what I wanted to actually read to you to start this episode was from my client. So inside my higher year level mentorship, one of my clients asked this and I was like, you know what? This is perfect for a podcast. One of the things that she sent me, one of my clients sent me, is that I've disappeared recently because of the same pattern as always, she said. Things got off the rails for a few days and I immediately pulled back. I felt embarrassed to admit what was happening. And then I just kept pulling back and not doing the things that I care about anymore. Today I woke up and she said, that's it. I'm restarting, but I feel like a fraud saying this because I've done this so many times before and nothing changes. What do you think I do here? And I want to just go through in this episode what I actually told her. And the first thing that I want to say is that it's not embarrassing. Nothing about that is embarrassing. I get you feel embarrassed because there is a disconnect between how you're acting and who you really want to be. But it just is human. And this whole process, or what you're going through, pattern rather, it's just very fueled by shame. And I think that's super, super important to know. And I get it because I've done this. I've been this person. Oftentimes, the thing that I want to start with is people often think in these instances that they're breaking they're breaking the habit of going after what they want. So let's just use a very simple example of going to the gym. They're breaking their pattern of going to the gym, the thing that they care about doing. That's not really the problem here. And how I want to reposition it for you is that sure, you think you're breaking that pattern and that's the problem, but really what you're doing is you keep playing out the emotional habit of, sure, you're breaking the pattern itself, but then what you're doing is entering a cycle of shame where you shame yourself, you feel guilty, so therefore you feel like you're emotionally dragging yourself through the mud. Then you're pulling back, you're making it an identity problem, and then you're not able to re-engage in the pattern you actually want. And that's the problem. It's not the problem that you're breaking the good habit or supportive habit. The problem is that you keep re-engaging in this emotional, distressing habit of shame. And that's actually the pattern that is the problem and that needs to get broken. Said in slightly simpler terms, The problem isn't that you fell off. The problem is that you fell off and then proceeded to shame yourself and therefore make it too hard for you to instantly start back up. That's actually the problem. And something that I'm going to talk about here is that I think I think a lot of us think about discipline. Like think about discipline. I want you to pause and think about discipline. What is the kind of person that you see in your head? Because a lot of times if I dramatize this a little bit, and like crank it up to what people usually think. It's some definition of like have it perfectly together, never miss anything. Their hard work just seems really easy for them. They're really able to go after what they want. They don't mess up. They don't break their word to themselves. Like it's almost like a pedestal version of what you think it is. I think that is contributing to the problem. And often a lack of discipline is not actually a problem. A lack of discipline is a symptom of something greater, which if you're pedestaling everyone who's disciplined, that's part of the problem. And I used to do that too. I used to think like, I never thought disciplined people, and maybe this, I said it incorrectly. It's not that disciplined people, things come easier to them. They just seem to have this innate drive or ability that I couldn't access. But the reason you're struggling to access that is because of the shame. It's because you are too clouded by shame, by fear, or by doubt. It's not that you're lazy. It's one of those three things generally are going on that don't allow you to tap into the level of discipline that you actually want. Something that I think is super important for you to know too is that disciplined people aren't doing things perfectly. As someone who is very disciplined across a lot of areas of my life, I'm not doing things perfectly. There's even things that I do inconsistently, such as this podcast. Like I'm not super consistent with it, but it's more of like how I show up for myself. It's more of what do I do if I do fall off? And so the thing that I told my client that you have to know is this. You are likely making the assumption, and you logically know, you might logically be like, yeah, I know. But emotionally, you are making the assumption that disciplined people very likely don't fall off. And then that is why you're shaming yourself because you did fall off. And the truth is that disciplined people fall off too, albeit they fall off less. But often the reason they fall off less is because of that self-trust, self-belief, self-respect, self-regulation, and they're thinking about the fall off differently. What I therefore want to cover in this episode is how are the people who are super disciplined, hitting their goals, smashing it, confident, how are they thinking about a fall off versus how are you maybe thinking about a fall off, whether you're feeling super undisciplined, whether you just fell off, whether you have shame, or you just want to up your discipline even more and make it tighter, better, stronger, whatever. The first thing is that if someone who is disciplined falls off, they still fully understand that forward motion and progress and success is very possible. Whereas what people who are lacking discipline usually make it mean is they make it mean something about them. They think it means that they're not going to hit their goals. They end up attaching a lot of meaning where there's not, like, you don't need to. Something that disciplined people will do is that if they fall off of something, they'll just look at the data of why. They'll look at, okay, why did I fall off? Rather than attaching some fabricated meaning to it. Let me give you an example. When I used to fall off my diet, I don't really have a diet anymore, but when I used to fall off the way I wanted to eat, when I ate outside of how I really wanted to eat, I think I said this at the start, but I would completely fall off, or I'd shame myself, or I'd go binge eat, or I would then just fall off for a couple more days. Like instead of just hopping right back to it, I'd kind of tend to fall off for a little bit. And it would take me a really long time to kind of get back up where I wanted to go. And that happens all the time with people who I talk to. Whereas the people who are more disciplined, because they're not making it mean anything, and that's what would take me a long time to get back, is I would make it mean something about me. Disciplined people, they're not making it mean something about them. They're just looking at the data and then hopping back on. So for example, this last couple days, I've had my birthday. I then flew to San Francisco for my birthday with my best friends. And so it was more of just like celebration vibes and eating at all my favorite spots in San Francisco from when I used to live there for 3 years. And then I got home for like 12 hours and then I flew out again to New Orleans where I was celebrating my other best friend graduating law school. And so that was more like eating like crazy. The thing is like I quote unquote like fell off, you could say, of how I usually eat. But the thing is I'm just going to look at the data. I'm just going to look at, oh, this is happening because of this. I'm like, this is why. Just hop back on. Like there's such a small period between realizing that you're not doing what you wanted to do or said you were going to do and hopping back to it and getting to it. That's the thing about disciplined people. They have such a fast bounce back rate. There's such speed in execution between what they're doing that might not be on par with what they want and where they want to go. So that's a big difference. But a huge reason is because they're thinking about it differently. They're not making it mean anything about them. They're just hopping back on. They're just looking at data. So if you see that you're not doing what you want, look at why. What is causing that? Don't just be like, okay, I gotta get back on. I'm always looking at why. The thing that I always find interesting is, for example, people will set the same goal month after month after month after month after month. Like, I'll get clients who come to me when they first find me and they'll be like, I've had the same goal for a year and a half and I can't hit it. And like, it's a road to my confidence, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, have you ever looked at why you haven't hit it? And they're like, well, I think it's this. And I'm like, you should know that, right? You want to know that. So if I'm not hitting a goal, I always know why. I'm looking at the data. I'm looking at what is going on so that I can actually solve it, not make it mean something about me. So that's the first thing. The second thing that is somewhat related is disciplined people aren't catastrophizing one bad day or even multiple bad days. What you'll see happen in that same vein is that the people who are struggling with this, they're always attaching meaning. Now I'm not going to hit my goals. Now I'm not going to do this. And you'll see that oftentimes one little hiccup will have them diving into this pool of doubt that was always kind of underneath the surface the whole time anyway. One little thing will be like, see, this is what always happens and I'm never going to hit my goals. And like, don't make it mean something. Don't catastrophize it into something bigger. It's not as big of a deal, but you have to see that. And the thing that this number two thing is that the people who are disciplined have an intense growth mindset. They know that they can expand and grow and they're not fixed. But people who are often in this dilemma, they're more fixed mindset than they want to think. And no one wants to admit that. Like, no one. I hated admit. Like, my ego was kicking and screaming when I first had to admit that I might have understood a growth mindset, but I certainly didn't have one. That's what's happening here. Okay. Third thing, also similar, but we got to talk about it, is that you can't make this into an identity problem. People so often over identify with their unsupportive habits of the fall off, of I'm just not that disciplined of a person and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, it's not that deep. It's not that big of a deal. And it's almost like you're finding proof of why you can't do this. You're finding evidence of, well, of course I fell off. You're making what was just a small hiccup into this really big thing. Whereas disciplined people, they're not going to fight for the fact that they can't do something. They're going to actually find proof that they can pick it back up, that it's no big deal, that they're a disciplined person, and then they're going to move on. They're not over identifying with their mistakes and failures. When they fall off, they're still looking to all the reasons they can succeed and they still are a disciplined person and that they can still hit this goal versus fighting for their doubt. You've got to be able to not over identify with the problems. Fourth thing, and I think this is really important, is disciplined people don't actually think discipline is about perfection the way you might. All or nothing thinking is because you think that it's perfectionism or failure. I'm either being perfect, doing this perfectly, or failure. Like, that's what's going on. And oftentimes disciplined people, and I've talked to disciplined people, I've worked with disciplined people. People in my circle are usually very disciplined people. They're not thinking about it that way. They're actually thinking about this as it's the bounce back rate and the way that I respect myself, the way that I bounce back, the way that I execute fast decision making, and the way that I just pick myself back up. That's more to me about discipline. It's not whether I'm perfect and one little flaw, one little failure, one little mistake means that I'm not disciplined. Rather, it's how I keep going. It doesn't matter if you fall down 500 times, stand up 501 times. That's actually what it is. So discipline, it's like you could mess up, mess up, mess up, mess up, mess up. It's more about the fact that you are persevering. You have the resilience to keep going. You have the emotional stamina to keep it up. That's more what it's about. But I find that people who are lacking discipline so often, and I was such a quitter because of this. Like, you're probably a freaking quitter if you're doing this, and you don't have to be. But I was always making it this all or nothing. It was always about perfection, so that any single time that it wasn't perfect, of course I was going to fall off because I already decided that I couldn't make it. I was going to quit again because I wanted so badly to be perfect. And disciplined people aren't focused on perfectionism. They're not focused on their image, which if you are focused on perfectionism, you are focused on your image. Maybe not in this like egotistical way, but in a self-protecting way. They're focused on progress, 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 doing better, making the next best decision, focusing on the next play, and really having that emotional maturity, emotional stamina, resilience, and perseverance through it. Fifth thing, am I on the fifth thing? I think I'm on the fifth thing. This one is really big. If a disciplined person falls off, which they will because they're not perfect, they're just human. If a disciplined person falls off, and I'm using this quotes really strong because I'm going to get to that in the next point. If a disciplined person falls off, the fall off is contained. It is contained. They do not ever see it as some collapse in their character, in their potential, or their worth. Oftentimes, when people fall off, what will happen is they fall off other things too. They'll fall off. If you fall off one habit, they'll fall off other habits. And it becomes, I don't want to say slippery slope, but it's almost like when you fall off one thing, and this is the kind of person that you currently are acting as, a lot of things will fall off too. And you'll fall off this habit, and then you'll do that habit, and you'll be like, well, my day wasn't productive anyway, and I'm just tired today, so I'm just gonna watch Netflix tonight instead. Like, it's that kind of thinking, and it's often because, again, you're going back to the start of this, you're having shame that you did it, you're thinking in this fixed mindset, you're over-identifying with it, you're not looking at the data of why it happened the way someone who with really the skill of discipline might, and so you just start having other things kind of fall apart. When you have really honed your skill of being confident and disciplined, you'll see this as just a lapse in the decision that you would have liked to make in retrospect. For example, I I almost skipped the gym the other day actually. So I almost skipped the gym. I made a reel about this. And if I had skipped the gym, let me talk about it. If I had skipped the gym, I know that if I went to bed that night and thought about it, I'd be like, "Ugh, you could have worked out, Mackenzie. You could have gone to the gym. Like, it wasn't a big deal. You could have had time. You could have made it work." I would just simply see that as I had a lapse in the decision making of who I really want to be. I'm gonna look at the data of why. I'm gonna be like, okay, this was the excuse that you used and you didn't really need to. Like, my excuse that I would have used for this particular instance was, well, it was 7 p.m. on a Friday. My excuse would have been, well, there's not that much time before your plans. That is an excuse then with the data. If I'm in bed and I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna be like, that was an excuse that I used. And in retrospect, like, wasn't that legit? Like, I could have made it work. So next time I'm gonna make it work. Do you see how I think about that? Like, it's not some collapse and now I don't go anymore and now this happens, blah, blah, blah. No, it's just like it's contained. It is very contained, and I am setting myself up for success the next time. But here's what you don't often get to feel when you're engaging this like fall off cycle and shame cycle is I did go to the gym and I didn't do something in like crazy. I didn't have a lot of time. I genuinely didn't. So I just did a bunch of sprints on the treadmill. That's what I did. I did some sprints and I stretched after and then I went on with my night and I just literally adjusted. Like, I wore my hair like this, slicked back. So if you're on YouTube, you'll see my hair slicked back. But I just wore my hair like this so that I'm like, okay, now I don't have to wash my hair and I can just, there's more time to actually like make it to my plans, whatever. But after I did those sprints, I literally was like, yeah, I get to be so proud. Like, this is me actually, and I actively think this. This is me being the version of myself who I say I want to be. I want to keep showing up like this. I am this disciplined person. And not only have I done the workout and kept my word and done the goal, but I now am moving myself closer to who I want to be. But you don't get to have that win if you keep disengaging because of shame. And if you're not containing your fallout. And the last point, and I think this is so important, and I really want you to know this, is disciplined people are never talking about this as a fall off, as a start stop cycle, as a I need to restart or I need to hop back on. I find that that kind of verbiage, I only hear from the people who are engaging in this cycle. Because disciplined people they're just not thinking about it like that. Like, the fact that someone's thinking about it of like, I always start and stop and I'm just someone who I'm not that consistent, or I have to hop back on, or I have to restart, I have to start over, I keep falling off. Like, they're not thinking about it like this. So I need you to immediately disengage from this kind of line of thinking. Like, you just don't need to think about it like this. What I have found is that disciplined people genuinely always think they're moving towards growth. Like, they are always moving towards growth. They always are focused on that forward progress, that forward motion. So it's not this like The analogy, I used to have a whiteboard and I don't anymore, so I can't really draw this for you. But oftentimes think about rolling a ball up a hill. People who are struggling with this often feel like if they fall off, they stop and that ball rolls back down to the bottom of the hill, and then they're like, "Oh, now I have to restart." And oh, it's so awful, right? And they think if they stop or they get it wrong or they make a mistake, that ball rolls back down the hill, and they're like, "Oh, I don't have the energy to like keep doing this." And what's the point of trying to roll this ball up the hill to get to the top, because I never get to the top and it always falls back down. That's the mentality. Disciplined people realize they're not on a hill, even if it's hard, right? If they stop, the ball just is going to stay there and not stay there for that long, right? If you're on a flat surface, if you stop rolling the ball, it's just going to stop, right? And then you're just going to keep going. It's to try and give you an analogy. I don't know if that's landing, but that's how they think of it. It's like it's always forward motion. So it's not like they stopped and things have gone horribly wrong and all of this and blah blah blah. They're just like, okay, just back to it, back to rolling the ball. Let's go. It's always moving towards growth, and it's more about how fast do I want to move towards my growth versus backpedaling, backpedaling, backpedaling. If you are thinking about discipline in a way where it's like start, stop, all this, cut it out. Cut it out. Start thinking about it differently, because how you see this whole thing, this is why I'm talking about this, because so much of discipline also comes from your perspective. It is also going to come from that. And this whole conversation really does mirror the self-belief, self-trust, self-regulation, self-respect that I'm talking about. You are far more, like, I promise you, the people who are watching this and listening to this, you guys are not like lazy people. You never are. My audience never is. You are very often really ambitious, driven people who are just experiencing some layer of shame, fear, doubt, like I was. So you have what it takes to be disciplined, but you do need to think about some of these things differently so that you're setting yourself up for better success. With that in mind, know that if you keep thinking about this the same way, you're going to keep playing out this same cycle. If you want to cut the cycle, start by changing how you think about it and implementing what I'm saying in this episode. Because the truth is, you don't need to shame yourself. You don't need to emotionally exile yourself. You don't need to drag yourself through the mud for so long that it's too hard to bounce back. You don't need to wait till you feel better either. Simply realize that if you think about this differently, you just stand back up. You just hop back on and you just keep going towards that growth. So all of that to say, re-engage without shame. Decide again without all that meaning attached or future casting failure. Focus so much more on forward motion than the perfect progress. I genuinely thought I was never going to be able to be a disciplined person. I never thought I was going to be able to be a content creator, entrepreneur, like travel the world, do any of the things that I've done. But I have, and I've been able to do it because I've become someone who is super confident, super relentless, who respects herself, who shows up for herself. And I swear I have the most fixed mindset. So if I can do it, you can do it. And so much of what you need to do it is inside my membership. Truly, you have monthly coaching calls with me where I will talk to you. I will get you there. We have a whole community where you get to rely on other people doing this work with you, but you also get to ask me questions every day. There's 100+ trainings in my membership meant to help you get there and develop you into the confident, relentless version of yourself in your way, not just some stiff way that I've done it or anyone else has done it. Whatever works for you. So if you're a shy person, cool, we're going to make it work for you. If you are someone where you're like, I have ADHD, which same, but like, we're going to make it work for you. So it's really making sure that you're a confident, disciplined person your way. And then there's also, if you love this podcast, just love these episodes, you get basically a daily podcast from me every single day. Every single day, 365 days a year, there's a new training from me that drops for 24 hours. You get to learn from it. It's so much fun. People love that. So if you know you want this kind of transformation, you want to be someone who you're able to do what feels so out there and unrealistic right now, and you do it through becoming someone who is confident and follows through, come join my membership Audacious. It is literally less than $80 a month for 6 months. You will see so much growth. You can check it out in the show notes. And I hope you love the episode. Review, give a rating, leave whatever, a comment if you loved it. And I will absolutely catch you guys in the next episode.